Welcome to Living MaxJoy, the podcast helping families turn up the joy in everyday life. Presented by Nemours Children's Health in partnership with ESF Camps and Experiences.
Welcome to the Living MaxJoy podcast. I'm Michael Rouse. Today I have the privilege of introducing someone who I've known for over 20 years, who've had a meaningful impact on my life, our organization, and countless families from around the world. Muniya, I've known Lee Brower for more than 20 years, and I'm fortunate to know not only Lee, but also his wife, Lori, and several of his children. In fact, one of his daughters, Kelsey, worked with us on our team as a counselor at Dream Camp a few summers ago. And Lee's helped us inspire some of the traditions and values that are woven into the ESF Camps fabric that has impacted thousands of campers over the years. Many of the practices that have become part of our camp culture, like the gratitude rock and the go big glasses and the beginning gratitude, all came from Lee over the years, which has been awesome. He has such a powerful view and the way he describes what gratitude means to he and his family and how he has spread that throughout the course of his journey with his son, Nick, which you'll learn about today. And over the years, Lee has generously, shared that wisdom with millions of people. And he was in the book, The Secret, which also turned into a film. And he's also has been an incredible role model at ESF, coming and speaking to all of our staff at our team leadership conference. He's gone on site, visiting with our camps. He's also been a part of our Dream Camp Foundation, where he's spent time with both of our programs in Hartford, Connecticut at Trinity College, and also in Philadelphia. And he has just been an outstanding role model and subject matter expert that has really impacted ESF over the years. He's a renowned speaker, author, entrepreneur, and family legacy expert who has touched countless lives around the world. As I mentioned, many of the people around the world know Lee because of his appearance in the groundbreaking book and movie, The Secret. Throughout his career, Lee has dedicated himself to helping individuals, families, and business leaders live with greater purpose, gratitude, and intention and impact while building what he calls enduring wealth. Lee, welcome to the Living MaxJoy podcast.
What a joy to be here. You could have made all that very simple and just said, Lee is a father, happily married, got 21 grandchildren, and that's his legacy. So for that, anybody would be grateful.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for joining us. The world first met Lee Brower with the book, The Secret. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
The movie actually first, Michael. I didn't even know the book came after the movie. So
tell us about that. How did it originate?
Well, Rhonda Burns was the one that originated. She's from Australia, and she just decided to do something for her company. But she wanted to reach out to certain leaders, and I was speaking at an event with like Jack Canfield and several of those people. And she was not there to see me, she was there to see them. And but then she heard me speak, and she said, "Would you mind?" And I said, "Sure, I'd be glad to." And so in the moment, I felt like I was just doing something for her and her clients in Australia. And so when she asked me what I consider to be the greatest secret, I said, gratitude. And she said, gratitude? And I said, yes. And so she said, can you share an example? And so the example that I shared in the gratitude was not the origination of the gratitude rock, but it was kind of like something that happened along the way. And so when the movie came out, I got a call from somebody who said, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I really enjoyed The Secret, the movie, and I really enjoyed your part of it. And I go, what movie? And they go, well, The Secret. And I said, well, it's a secret to me. so it was one of those things that it came out, and I guess they were sending me emails from The Secret. Well, I don't open up emails that I don't know what they're from, and The Secret sounded suspicious to me. So I did open up any of the emails and then went to it, and lo and behold, there we were. And so the rest is kind of history. It's opened up doors around the world.
By the way, I referred to you as the rock star in that movie. So for all of those of you who have not seen The Secret, it is really all about the power of positive thinking. And do you remember that back then?
I do. I very clearly remember that my sister-in-law said, "Hey, have you read this book?" And, I'm a psychologist, so people tell me about books they've read about in how it might help for my work. And I thought, okay, well, definitely got to check out what this is about. And so then I did see it. Really liked the message. I could see where scientists might want to poke holes in it, but I still felt like it was an important, powerful message.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
What is the difference really between positive thinking and genuine emotional resilience?
Yeah, so that's the question I get so often. So positive thinking, a lot of times people think just therapy, not just The Secret. I think that was I think sometimes an overgeneralization of The Secret was just that it was about positive thinking. An overgeneralization about therapy is that it's just about positive thinking. Neither of these things are true. Not that, but there is some part of it that is true, that positive thinking about all of the things. So in therapy, what we do is we want you to be really aware of your thoughts. We want you to be aware of your thoughts because they're extremely powerful in how you feel and in how you respond to that moment and in that situation. And then eventually it becomes habits, and eventually it becomes your experience, your life experience. So your thoughts are extremely powerful. If you are focused on negative thoughts, if you are focused on all of the things you're scanning for are the dangers or the things that could go wrong or the things that are not quite right, then the more negative things, your experience will start to get more and more negative. Your response will start to be in response to those negative thoughts. And then it starts to be that you're feeling threatened and feeling much more negative all day long. So in therapy, we do work to shift from only focusing on the things that might be negative to shifting to all of the things, including, of course, positive thinking. So we do want to think about all of the good things. We want to be clear about the negative things, but also not over focus on it. And I think The Secret was saying, and Lee, you'll be better at this than me talking about The Secret, but I think it said, it reminded us about the power of our thoughts and how it's influencing our experience, our world, our universe, and not to underplay the number of minutes you're attending to whatever you're attending to is having a powerful impact on what happens next. And I think that's true for therapy too. And we try to get people to be really aware of where they putting their attention. And the more they're shifting away from fears and worries about negative things, it's going to improve your response and your experience. And so it's not positive thinking. I think it's awareness of your thinking and being aware not to over focus on the negative.
I know at ESF we're trying to help kids kind of build that confidence and develop their own superpowers. And Lee, I've known you a long time. I think one of your superpowers is the power of gratitude. So tell us when you first, realized that gratitude was an important part of your life.
Well, I wish I had realized it when I was the age of my kids. I wish I would have realized it earlier. And looking back, I can see many, many, many instances. Who owns your past? Who owns your past? Is it an asset or a liability? And for some people who live in the past, it says, if that hadn't happened to me, you know where I'd be today. And so they blame the past. It becomes a liability, as opposed to those people that really understand you can learn from everything that's there. And it took me a long time to learn that. And when it really hit me, one of our children was going through a really, really tough time. And her nickname, since she was 12, 13, 14 years old, was Butterfly. Mariposa, we gave her in Spanish. So she had that nickname, and she's been a really tough time. And I was with her, and I said, sweetheart, you're going to go through some tough times. coming up, when you come out the other end, are you going to be better or worse for it? And she said, well, better, I hope. And so by allowing your dad to go through this with you, will I be better or worse? And that really set her back. And she said, well, I hope you're better too. And so I left her. We left in tears and hugged and everything. And I went out and I happened to be by myself at the beach. And I was walking along and I was not in gratitude. I was in the opposite space. In other words, I was looking at, gosh, I was going through these beat problems, like this going on. I was picking up rocks and I thought I was going to beat the ocean up with them. I was throwing so hard. Went to pick up one rock and I looked at it, and there's emblazed on it was a perfect emblem of a butterfly in flight. Both wings back up like this, and it just hit me like a rock. I mean, I literally dropped to my knees right there on the ocean. And I looked at it and I said, that's it. I'm done. Look at all the things you're grateful for. You had a wonderful family. You've had a great mother that's just got you. You've got a father that's got you integrity. May not have been the most loving. He was a hard-working father, or outward loving type of guy that you speak to. I learned so much from him. I started just realizing benefits. Went back up, wrote the note to my daughter of what I'd said the day before, put the rock in a box and sent it to her. We still have that rock today. And I went back out to the beach, picked up a rock. I carry a rock with me every day for the last 25 years. I don't miss a day. And they're easy to replace if you lose them. You just go out and grab another one. But anyway, that's where it started. But it happened in a moment. But in that moment, I recognized from my past that all of those things that I thought were negative, I could learn from. And as I learned from them, then that gave me strength in the moment. And then I started seeing a bigger future because I realized that with that past, I had stepping stones to an even greater future. So I was inspired by the future. I was informed by my past, which comes together in the moment. Now think about the things that only happen in the moment. Gratitude only happens in the moment. It only happens in the moment. You can use it this fast. Confidence in today's world, where our kids are getting bombarded with getting a like or getting a dislike. We have kids now that have 1,000 friends and they don't even know the first name. Nobody to call if they're in trouble. We're starting to lose the meaning of the connection where it's at. What happens in the moment, then, the most important thing that happens in the moment is choice. And if we've got gratitude for our learning of where we're going, and we've got gratitude into a bigger future, our choices are going to be informed by the wisdom of our past and inspired by our future.
I'm inspired by you all the time, but that transformative moment when you were walking along, you were in not a great state of mind, and then you came across that rock with the butterfly. I've seen how that has changed your entire life, and you threaded gratitude throughout your entire life and your family's life and your business life. Why do people overlook gratitude?
Well, so our brains are really designed to protect us from bad things, and it becomes our first instinct usually is to prepare for the worst or to prevent the worst. So it has to be a fairly active process to choose, as Lee's saying, making the choice to think about the things that we're grateful for instead. It's an active process against. So, I always say, this is a battle for the direction of your attention. You versus the anxiety or your worry, is survival instinct. It's going to try to steer you to preventing bad things all the time. It's first thing we wake up, we tend to scan for what bad things might happen today. It's just a habit. It becomes the easiest thing over time because it becomes so automatic, we accept it. So then the active choice to think about, wait a minute, big picture, I'm so grateful for all of the things that I have, the security, my family, however you want to take the next step. But when you think about, you choose to focus on gratitude, the small ups and downs of the day become much easier to manage, much easier to think. It becomes this big rock, becomes this, or I don't want to use rock because we're using it as the gratitude rock, but big thought, big emotion becomes this small, I can, it's not the big picture. The big picture, I'm doing okay. So it's a choice. And I think it has to be something we work on. And so I think that's why this gratitude rock practice that you do at ESF and that Lee has created in his world, in his life, for his family and his, how he's teaching across the world. Those kinds of practices really help us get there. I think it's something, if you don't think about it, it doesn't come automatically. So it's really important to think about. So that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm glad we're reminding people to think, choosing gratitude.
So from your clinical perspective, is gratitude something that people can practice even when they don't generally feel grateful in that moment?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the harder part, of course. I mean, it's not easy, but it's possible. It's everybody's got things paying attention, that if you paid attention to, that there are things to be grateful for. So, and this is one of those things that we model. We should help. In the end, one of the reasons we feel like we can do it so well is because we have perspective of our lives. We've been through so much. We've had ups and downs, and we can see all of how we've grown, and that perspective doesn't come without the life experience. And so we can't expect kids who are 5, 6, 7, 8, and even up to 16 to have enough of those under their belt to have that kind of perspective. So we have to sort of model how to have that type of perspective. They would be very used to saying, I'm really grateful for this gift my dad got me for Christmas, or, really grateful for my puppy. Like, those things are just easier for them to wrap their head around. But to say something like, I'm so grateful for the food on the table. When we say that, it's from a perspective of knowing that a lot went behind getting food on the table, and a lot of people haven't been able to get food on the table. There's more struggle. The fact that that we have this, so then to say something like, I'm grateful for this meal, but then add, I'm grateful for this meal because it helps me to know I've taken care of myself and my family, and that gives me I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. And so you adding those extra words. So it's a practice that you can start at any age, and that you can find so many things, small, big. Big ones are easier to see, but there are small things everywhere. I sometimes for kids, I use the phrase, think of your favorite F's. Food, family, friends, fun, that your favorite activities, so they can kind of tap into some of the things that come to mind. But everybody can find something. We all have a lot to be grateful for.
What does the research tell us about gratitude and mental health?
So gratitude's one of our big, very clear factors related to mental well-being. Over and over again, more than 10 years of research to confirm that one of the protective factors against negative mood and or anxiety is a mindset of gratitude. So growth mindset research really spends a lot of time on this. Positive psychology research has spent a lot of time on this. So there's a lot of great resources if anyone's interested. But over and over, it is just a clearly very important thing to give us a buffer against challenges, and one of the things that we try to focus on the most in order to build resilience. So
we have a really great tradition at ESF that Lee introduced us to, called the Gratitude Rock, right here. And we probably have had this tradition going on for over 18 years, thanks to Lee. And we also have the Go Big, and big means begin in gratitude. And it's just a special time that we begin the day at ESF every day. And at the end of every day, this tradition is pretty powerful because every group has a rock, a gratitude rock, and a camper is asked to award this gratitude rock to another camper who can't be your new best friend, can't be someone that you want to get to know. You have to catch somebody doing something great and let them know about it. And you may have been that person that held the door for us at 9:15 when we were going to our first activity, but I didn't let you know this because I wanted to give you the rock today. And it's incredible to watch a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old, start to understand what gratitude is. And it is a powerful tradition at ESF, thanks to you, Lee. And what does that feel like when you see our kids, do this? I mean, tell me about that.
Well, I'll give you an instant of the joy that comes, and I can see it. And as we talked, I realized that probably gratitude hit me sooner than that one moment. I think if I hadn't had other moments of gratitude prior to that, it may not have been so profound as when I saw that rock and picked it up. But I remember a time when I decided that our family, we should set up a tradition of every time that you come to dinner, before we have dinner, we would share something positive that we were grateful for. So the first time that I introduced this to them, and of course I had teenagers and early teenagers and up, and I got a couple of whatever, kind of responses. And but I chose not to make a point out of it. I thought maybe if I just kind of keep it going, it'll work. And so afterwards, my one daughter, actually it's the same one with the gratitude rock that started the gratitude rock. She's the one that said whatever. And afterwards, and here's a magic sentence, by the way. Here's a magic couple of words, because I pulled her aside and I said, I found out that kids don't really care what I want, and so instead of saying I want you to, I said, would you be willing? And I found that those 4 powerful words have helped me in business. They've helped me. Instead of saying I want, even my employees, people that work with me, they don't care what I want. So, but if we could work off an agreement, would you be willing? So I said to her, sweetheart, when you speak, your siblings all listen to what you say. You make a difference. So your dad's going to do this every time we come to dinner together. Anytime we're together, your dad's going to do this. So would you be willing to support me in thinking of at least one thing that you might be grateful for? Doesn't matter how big it is. And so she was like, okay, and so then it started. And so she was willing, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the first time she said, I'm thankful for my thumb. Okay, great. You know what I mean? But she was thinking of something. And then the day came when she came in and says, can I be first? And I knew something had happened during the day where in a world where we're bombarded with so much negativity, that she started to look for things that were positive so that she could share them back home. And I've learned that rituals are the things that hold families together and businesses. And when our first daughter got married, I thought, we need to go build a pool. My wife said, why do we need to build a pool? Well, so that when we get grandkids, they come to our house and don't go to the other grandparents' house. You know what I mean? Over the years, having now 21 grandkids, I've learned that they go to where the traditions are, where the rituals are. And so if you can start to bring those into your family, rituals just bring gratitude. Traditions bring gratitude. And I got a number of stories around that. But, so for me, that moment that Natalie said, can I be first? I get to see it repeated when I hear and see the things that the kids that you influence, who are really influenced by not you as much as influenced by their peers. They're there with peers thinking the same way. That's a different environment that they have at school, at the regular school. You know what I mean? So they're influenced by that, and they have that aha moment to see something that's positive. So when I see that, that's what I get to feel from.
When you wire rituals, often more powerful than intentions alone.
So rituals, I think of rituals and routines as a way that it just helps us organize our thoughts. So again, if we are in the battle for the direction of our attention, we need help organizing which way to point our attention. And rituals really help us do that. Routine helps us do that. If you woke up and said, what do I feel like doing today? Chances are you might not get done everything you intended. You may have good intentions, but if you go with the feeling, that feeling might not lead you to getting, doing the things you really intended to do. So a routine, though, can get your mind organized around a series of things that will happen. You don't have to ask yourself, do I feel like it? You kind of know you won't feel like it, but it's part of the routine, and that routine is there to get you to get the things done you want to get done. Or if it's, family time, I think is an important routine. The time that we have to spend with our kids, we're not just doing it because we want to. Of course, we're doing it just for fun, but we're also doing it because that's the time we have to. We have to be able to communicate our values, communicate what this all means. And so a routine, like a tradition, whether it's Thanksgiving or pool time, Saturday morning coffee, whatever the routine is, it gets everyone's mind organized around it, even if you don't feel like it. And then you get to have your intentions follow that. And it's much easier to go in that direction than the other way around. So I'm a big fan of routine. I say this is not time management. This is organizing your thoughts.
Well, I will tell you this. I knew this worked maybe a year or two into this tradition at ESF with the Gratitude Rock when I got a call from one of our site directors who said to me, I have a story to share. This happened this afternoon, and this was involving a family who had to leave camp early to head to the beach, which was an hour and a half away. And as the father is pulling into the driveway of their beach home with his 4-year-old, the little girl starts to cry and says, I have to go back to camp. And the father's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I have got to go back to camp now. I am not getting out of the car. And the father's like, is something wrong? And she's like, yes, we must go back to camp right now, Dad. And we need to be there before 2:30. And so she's crying. He's thinking something terrible has happened, but he's trying to calm her down. And on the ride back, she's talking about the rock. I have to give the rock back. Oh. She had it in her backpack. So he is like, tell me about this rock. What are you talking about? Did somebody throw it at you? Did somebody hurt you? He's, no, Dad, this is the rock. And the entire drive back for an hour and a half was all about this rock and why this rock is so important. She's talking to him as a 4-year-old about the power of this gratitude rock at camp, this tradition at camp, and how she needed to give it to Lucy because Lucy helped her at lunchtime, and she was talking about how she needed to award the rock to Lucy today. Mm-hmm. By the time that father got back with this little girl to camp, after driving another hour and a half back, the father, his stream of emotions went from anger to gratitude. And he was actually saying to my site director, look, can I get one for my family? Can I get one for my business? This is incredible what you do. And obviously my site director is saying, it's just a rock. You can get that at home, whatever you want. But it was super powerful. And it was such a meaningful moment for us.
One of the things that I read about gratitude, by just asking, what am I grateful for? Just asking. If I just ask, what am I grateful for? I don't even have to answer it. I get dopamine and serotonin by just asking it. So why not develop a routine around it? So it says, what am I grateful for today? And automatically, why not? I mean, I get dopamine, serotonin. What a great way to start the day. And then put in there whatever your answer would be. So it's, I developed a word called potent that I use. Have I shared that with you, Michael? Okay, when you start working with enough families, enough businesses, and you start thinking of something you're grateful for every day, you develop a routine. So I might have somebody in my office, and every day they say, I'm grateful for the weather. But, are they really feeling it? You know what I mean? It just becomes rote. So I came up with the word potent, where I say, okay, let's pause. P stands for people or person. What person am I grateful for today? What people, so it starts out that way. So I could, and you can pick anyone you want to, or you can make it a variety. Today we're going to focus on P. Okay. What person am I grateful for? O is for opportunity. So what opportunities are you grateful for? What opportunities do you have? And maybe you're not seeing them. Well, what opportunities do you have that maybe other people don't have? You see what I mean? So you start and then T stands for things. What things do I have that I'm grateful for? And the E stands for experiences. What experiences have you had that you're grateful for? The N stands for nature. What about nature? I am grateful for the weather. I'm grateful for the beautiful day. And the last T is my favorite, and that is for your thoughts. And so what thoughts are you grateful for? And that really causes you to kind of think about it. But anyway, I just share that with you as ways to expand the tradition, because sometimes it does get rote when you're going big, beginning in gratitude or doing positive focus. It gives you a chance to kind of open up the scope so you can see even more.
Love that.
Wendy, do you recommend any type of routine, cadence throughout the day?
I mean, first thing in the morning is obviously the best, the most important one, because it really does set us up for the rest of the day. So I think that's a very important one. If you can, I think we learn over time what works for for ourselves, and a lot of people like to work out in the morning because they can tell that's the routine that gets them into the mindset of growth and gratitude. And kids will need help in creating their own routine in the beginning. So starting in the morning is a great way to do it, remembering all the things we're grateful for, that every day has good and bad things, but we're going to focus on all the things we're going to make happen that are good. Those are early morning starts that can really lead a great day off. And I like, you're doing great work during the day at camp, and I think the end of the day reflection on the things we're grateful for is a beautiful practice also. I think it helps to get that, instead of ruminating on the negative, turning that attention to reflecting on the positives is a really important, first shift in feeding any kind of fear or worry, but it's also a good way to feel at the end of the day at peace, regardless of what happened, and that's what we're really all going for. We're going for, I did the best I could with what I had, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and you go to bed at peace, and that usually means a better night's sleep. So I think those two would be ideal. If we could do that every day and have that be part of a family routine would be amazing.
Lee, we'd like to talk to you about your son, Nick. I've had the honor of knowing Nick and witnessing the impact he's had on so many people, especially your family. For those of you who may not know his story, can you tell us about Nick and what made him such a special young man?
Yeah. So Nick, at age 18, he was a senior in high school, was out playing basketball with somebody and took a shot, an elbow, in our backyard, and just complained about getting hit there. And so we thought, well, maybe it went on for a while. Maybe he broke his bone there or something. So we took him to the doctor, and they said, no, the x-rays are fine. And so then it continued on for a while. We thought, well, maybe it's his wisdom teeth. So we took him to a dentist. No, x-rays are fine. And it kept proceeding, and this has gone on for about a month or so, and he still was feeling more and more pain. And so we went to an eye, ear, nose, and throat, and he immediately could see that he had cancer, and he had about the size of a baseball, believe it or not, that was lodged up behind his in his sinuses. So yeah, we could see the swelling. His eye was starting to close, and so he had what they call rhabdomyosarcoma, and this, especially, and he was an in-between age, so he was 18, and it's usually something that occurs in children, not in adults, and they didn't know whether to treat him as a little kid or as an adult, and so we immediately jumped on it, and away we went. I think that the the lessons that we have learned in that process. I'll share two with you real quickly. Lori took copious notes. One of the things that helped her through it was journaling. And in the journaling, you not only express the things that you can, what we've learned is that you don't have to be grateful for everything that's going on. But if you really look for it, you can be grateful in. You don't have to wait for the rainbow to enjoy the rain. There's things that you can find. And the way that she did it was by writing in her diary. It allowed her to kind of express herself and her frustrations and her madness and her anger. But at the same time, you'll see inside of that, the blessings of seeing the good and seeing the stories and seeing all these things that we've now revisiting. She's got 900 pages. She's gone back and re-edited, and she's combined them with Nick's journal. So it's just rich with stories and rich with learnings. A couple of them that jump out. One was he was going through a particularly tough time and was in a lot of pain, was on a feeding tube, couldn't swallow because he had been getting radiation in his face and stuff. And we had a good friend, a person that we worked with who had been in an accident and was paralyzed from the waist down. And Nick got to meet him. And so, the story where they talk about somebody came to and said, you can put all your problems, put all your problems into a pile and go back and take the one that's yours. All right. Or no, take the one that you would rather have. So you put all your problems in a pile and go pick the one that you want. If you got to take one back, pick the one that you want. And the lesson of the story was everybody went in and picked their own and brought it back when they looked at everybody else's. So I was sharing that story with him. It was me and Lori and Nick sitting at the table. And after I shared the story, he was just really quiet. And he said, I wouldn't take mine back. And I didn't know what to say. It caught me. And I looked at Lori and we're both like, I don't know what to say. It's just a quiet period. And then he says, unless it meant that somebody else had to take mine, and then I'd take mine back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I'm like, wow. So what's the lesson? Do you see what I'm saying? What's the lesson? And that lesson lives on. It's something that we've carried on. And then one other one that was huge. After he had cancer for about a year, we were at Sloan Kettering, and we had a doctor who didn't have the best bedside manner, but he said, Nick, it's growing fast. We need to take out half your nose, half your mouth, your eye. And if we don't do it, it's going to go to your brain, and it's a horrific way to die. And when do you want to have it done? And Nick, bless his heart, this is where he was strong. He's now 19 at that time, and he sits there. We're just dead quiet. And he looks there, and he looks at him, and he goes, we're going to get a second opinion. And so, okay, all right. Well, there's only 2 doctors in the nation that really was experts in this. So the other one was at Dana-Farber. So we went up to Dana-Farber in Boston, and that doctor said, whatever you do, don't do the surgery. So we're wondering, is he telling us because it's not going to work, don't go through the hassle of it, or if he's telling us because that's a true. So Nick said, okay. And he said, let us think about it. So he told Gloria and I, he says, let's pray about it this week. And I don't want to hear what you have to say till you've prayed about it. So we prayed about it over the weekend. And he came back and he said, let's go to Dana-Farber. What they optioned as an option was to go in and take out the debris that had been destroyed as a result of all of the treatments that had been given, radiation, etc. So we went back to Dana-Farber, and he said, and then if they say that that's the best thing, that when they get in there, then let them do it. So we went with Dana-Farber. They went in. They could not find 1 ounce of commensurate, not one speck. Okay, and they're like, would be flooded. They're just like, we don't know. It was there, but we don't know. So we're like, thank you, God. This is a miracle. So for a year, Nick's getting stronger. We're working out. He's looking great. We're good in school. We go in for our quarterly checkup. It's almost exactly 1 year later, and you can tell by the doctor's look on his face that he said, Nick is back. But it's not in your face. It's on your spleen, on your pancreas, and in your spleen. And we need to take your spleen out now. It's growing fast. So we'll make arrangements for you to come in tomorrow. When he goes, no. He looked at me and he says, book that skydiving trip. And I'll come in on Monday. So we, so we go to San Diego. We get there Friday night and we go to a Padres game. Had a great time. Saturday morning, we're supposed to jump out. We got this guy named Nick, N-I-X, who's a paratrooper, and they've jumped thousands of jumps, and he's all excited to take Nick. There's somebody that I had met earlier. And it's raining cats and dogs. So he says, well, let's go over to the Navy SEAL thing and let's run the obstacle course. So we go over there. So I'm watching a 19-year-old boy going through the Navy SEAL obstacle course. Well, I mean, throwing logs over. We're going through it together, and I'm looking at him thinking, gee, this is crazy. But here he is with this, and something inside of him was eating him away. And so then Nick's called his family. The next day happened to be Easter. So everybody must be with their family on Easter. So he called his family and said, do you mind if we stay over? And he was able to find a pilot that would take him. And so I'm down on the ground with binoculars as Nick and Nick's are jumping out of the plane. And Nick had told him, he said, do you want to just jump out or do you want to do some tricks? Nick said, I want to do everything. So I'm watching like this, and out the plane it goes. I see him going like this over and over, and sideways this way. And I'm sitting there as my eyes are coming down towards the ground. And I'm like, pull the chute. What are we doing here? And finally pulls the chute, and he comes down, and he's got a grin from here to here. And he walks over to him and he goes, now I'm ready. And I thought, what's the lesson there? Guter says, don't let the things that matter most be at the mercy of those things that matter least. Nick understood that. But even more importantly, he understood that don't let the things that are essential be at the mercy of those things that are very important. Was it very important that he had that surgery? Yes. But he had a bigger essential burning inside. When that prepared him to go in and take the surgery and allowed him to live for 2 more years and do amazing things over those 2 years, when it gets down to choices, don't let the things that are essential with the mercy of those things that are even very important. In today's world, we can see everything that's very important around the world, and we can't do anything about most of it. So what are those things that we can do something about? And focus on that. So that was the lesson from that one. So that's 2 stories.
So one of the things that impacted me most watching you on the sidelines with Nick and Lori and your entire family was how you all stayed in the state of gratitude. I mean, in some of the most difficult moments when he was going through chemo, when he was going through various surgeries, when the prognosis was not great, and the fact that not only you guys, but Nick stayed positive the whole time in that attitude of gratitude. How did your family maintain that? How did you guys have that mindset during such a difficult time?
Well, thank you, Michael. And thank you for your comment and your question. I think that at the core of it all is faith. As a family, we have the belief and a strong faith that families can be together forever. And we have a belief that this life is for learning, and it's an opportunity for us to learn. Even we can learn from everything. And I think that I had several experiences that kind of taught me, and I think we could see it in our own family, that as long as we're involved in doing good for others, that's where we grow. So Nick early on created a foundation. He called it Nick's Warriors. And we started working with young kids that had cancer. We did softball tournaments, golfing events. We would see miracles right before our eyes. Each team was adopted a cancer cutie. And so they were playing for the cancer cutie. And so for Nick, it was a joy. He said it's great.
Let me point this out. This is while he's going through chemo. Okay. He created Nick's Warriors. I mean, he turned the negative into a
Yeah,
positive.
and he would speak to every team. If they were eliminated, he would go to the team and speak to them. And he would say something like, "Did you win or lose?" And they go, "Oh, we lost," "Oh, wait a second." And then he'd say, "Are you a better person today than you were before you started? Did you learn anything today that you didn't learn before?" And he said that with every single team when they were eliminated. And of course, at the end, he said the same thing at the grand. And it was really interesting because the morale that was around that was just huge, huge. And so then we didn't start adopting. What happened was, this went 2 or 3 years, and then he passed. And the next year, the tournaments were just like all the other tournaments. The umpires were coming and they're yelling at the umpires, and none of that happened when Nick was around. None of it. When he was there, 40 teams, nothing. None of that happened. And Lori was in tears. We were going home. She goes, "I don't know if we can continue this." And then in the spring, one of the umpires came up to her and said, "You need to be doing this. We need to keep Wacky going," because she was going to cancel it. We changed the name to Warriors Against Cancer in Kids and Young Adults. Nick said he didn't want it to be about him. So we changed it to Wacky, Warriors Against Cancer in Kids and Young Adults. So Lori decided that, all right, if we're going to do it, what we're going to do is we're going to assign a cancer cutie to each team. So she went into the cancer community and asked parents if they would allow their son or daughter to become cancer cuties. And in some cases, they became angels during that time. But to see those girls rally around, to have a mom still sitting in the dugout a year later because she's with that team, and every girl that comes out hits his old mitt, and she hugs you and says, "You gave us a family we didn't know we had," And this was because Nick literally, at the end, everybody that got eliminated, he would talk to them. He would talk to every team, even when he was sick, and he would make the tournament, and he would talk with every team, every girl, and when they were eliminated. And so I think the arrows out, what I call arrows out, not always being arrows in, was something that was valuable. And we had other things like what we call legacy breakfast, et cetera. I don't know if we have time to explain that, but we have things like that were developed that just helped our whole family look outward instead of inward.
We want to talk about that tradition in a moment, but Muniya, many people mistakenly believe gratitude means ignoring pain. How would you best describe the relationship between gratitude and grief?
So I think they can both live together. As Lee perfectly described, I think they can live together. One doesn't have to disappear for the other to appear. And one of the things we know really helps with being able to, so when grief comes, when there's loss or there's something unexpected that leaves you with grief, our brain actually really has a hard time moving on from that content. It's a very powerful, it attracts your attention, very strong, and so we sort of relive it over and over again because we're attending to the loss. And so now to combat that, gratitude really is helpful to be able to redirect that attention to doing something for others or to what we're grateful for. One of the things I'll mention also that when you talk about the things you're grateful for in the context of grief, you're not avoiding the bad parts of what happened. And when you don't avoid the bad parts of what happened, your brain actually learns, your body learns that you are okay and that you don't have to avoid that thing, which actually then it's incredible what our brains can do, but it starts to then it's not as worried about it happening again. It makes you feel a sense of relief when you talk about it more. So a lot of times people think when something bad happens, let's try to distract, we'll go on with our lives. And it is important to go back to routine and go on with your lives. Organizing your thoughts is very important. But talking about what happened, talking in a way that you're you're not avoiding the bad parts, but underlining the good parts, lets your brain organize around that a bad thing happened, but it's nothing that I can't learn and grow from. And so I don't have to avoid thinking about it. And by doing that, we then make it that we're not having these moments where it's hard to, just constantly thinking about the bad parts. Grief has a way of making it. I'll give you an example. If you were in a car accident and you had this experience, and now you're seeing this as a dangerous experience you had, your body's going to make you feel less likely to want to drive again, want to get back in the car. If you think about if you then are like, okay, well, I prefer to walk, and think about all the details of what went wrong, and I shouldn't have been in that, I shouldn't have gone in rush hour, and then your body starts to think of that as more and more dangerous. It becomes more and more difficult to do those kinds of things again. If you're underlining the good parts of, okay, now I know more about what to do in rush hour. I'm grateful that I survived. I'm grateful that I'm here to be able to learn from this, and, grateful for the fact that nothing worse happened, or, whatever you can focus on, but talking about it with other people and then getting back in the car, most importantly, then makes your body sort of relax about, how dangerous it was, and learn that you are okay and you can grow from it. So it becomes a combination of you not having to fight the grief as much because you didn't avoid it.
I remember, Lee, when my daughter was born, and it was a pretty scary moment with some of her health complications. You called me late at night and we were just talking. And it was definitely an arrows out moment that you gave me, which was you were telling me a story about what Nick went through, and you were telling me about how you were trying to turn that grief into reality, and also more of an outward look to be on the bright side. And you said something to me that I'll never forget, which was, you said, I've got to stop thinking about why is this happening to me, and I have to start thinking about why is it happening for me. Just puts it all in perspective. So I want to thank you for that. So we want to close with a few rapid fire questions with you, Lee, if it's okay with you. So what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you?
Well, let me just say this. Being aware that people have done kind things for you is really, when you have a mindset of being able to see ways that you can help others, I think you see ways that people help you more. I think a lot of people don't see the gratitude that's happened. We have a tradition, I'll just mention very quickly, in our family where we call it legacy breakfast, where we buy breakfast for, we look around the room, and like I took my granddaughters. It started with us as a family, but I had my granddaughters recently. We go in and we look around to find somebody we can buy their breakfast for. And they're going, look at that couple over there. They haven't, let's buy theirs, Papa. And then somebody over there said, no, look at that one over there. We'll get the waitress involved and stuff at times, and so the idea is for us to be able to buy somebody's breakfast without them knowing it. So they're like, well, can we see it? We get out and walk out. I like Cracker Barrel because you can get out and walk and nobody knows. We've probably bought hundreds of legacy breakfasts, never have seen the reaction on the person's face. Now, a stranger that surprised me the most got around to pay for the bill for somebody's table, and somebody had paid for ours. What? Who? They didn't want you to know. And I'm like, well, that's my trick. That's not your trick. And so it's that's one that was a surprise.
Lee, what advice would you give your younger self today?
Take a deep breath. Everything isn't so serious. And talk to yourself better. Talk to yourself in first person.
What do you hope your grandchildren will remember most about you?
That I would hope my grandchildren would know a couple of things. One, that I listened more than I talked. I think the survey's been done that that's one of the things that children wish their parents did more, was listen to them. And so that I listen more than you talk. And in terms of what they thought about me, is that they that I loved them and they had a safe haven anytime that they were around. They could feel safe.
So, Lee, you've reminded us how gratitude is not simply something that comes automatically. It's important that we're practicing it, and it's easier to do when life is easy, harder to do when life is challenging. But I think today we learned how we can do it when things are tough, and how important it is to do it when things are tough, even more so. And that creating a routine around, a constant practice of gratitude makes it that we are having better days and that we're able to handle challenges as they arise. And just how powerful it is in changing our whole experience. So I think this has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your learnings and everything you've been developing.
And thank you, Lee, for your friendship, your mentorship, the extraordinary impact that you've had on me, my family, our ESF family, and the community, and everyone from around the world. You truly make a difference, and we're so grateful for you.
First of all, thank you to the listeners. Muniya, thank you for everything that you're doing. Your cause is making a difference. Mike, since you were 14 years old, and I've known you not that long, but I've known your story. You have such a great story. If I could describe you in one word, it's heroes out. And if you have, when you have the opportunity to see the ripples that you've made by one kid at a time, influencing other people, you would burst into tears. You have no idea what ESF has done, what you've done, and all the people that are working with your organization are doing in terms of positive generational impact. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's because of you and Dr. Muniya and everyone. We've got a great team. So thank you so much. And thanks for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Today's episode was brought to you by ESF Camps and Experiences in partnership with Nemours Children's Health. For more information, visit esfcamps.com/Nemours or click the link in the episode description. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep living MaxJoy.